from a business standpoint, every farmer is a businessman and a businesswoman. And any business, like was said before, that is to be developed has to be based on math. You can have the best product, you can have the best system of marketing, but at the end of the day, if it is not profitable, it will fail. And you can have people substituting and assisting and giving you grants and so forth. It will not succeed. So with that in mind, how can we make some changes to things that we see that need changing? I'll give you one example. How do we combat the boom and bust cycles of farming in Grenada? The answer is in sustainability. So we keep what works and we change what does not work. I'll give you an example. Examples help us to see pictures clearly. So in the poultry industry, the farmers usually receive an importation of layers at the end of the year. So by the time those layers produce, it's around August, summertime. But August is not peak period for the hotels. It's December and January and February. And August is when the SGU students are on vacation. So there's a mixed match between supply and demand. And that's why we see around August time a lot of farmers with their eggs on the side of the road trying to sell it before it expires. So all that's needed there is to bring in the layers at a different time. You bring it in May. So for your peak period, you have a match of supply and demand. And therefore you have a better market, profits. Outside of nutmeg and cocoa, a production plan for each crop needs to be done on those crops that we identify as priority crops for our country. And then we need to incentivize the farmer to plant those crops, provide the crops as is subsidized every year, but we focus on those particular crops to increase production. We already heard of 3. We heard of mangoes, market is already available there. We heard of soursop, and we heard about the opportunity for cabbage. Cabbage grows very well in Grenada, and it is a short crop. So it doesn't take long to produce, to upscale that production. So we need to focus in the areas that we have. You know, the old people say, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. The production quantity to start with must be based on 2 factors. 1, the demands that we have for export on those items. And 2, what our restaurants and hotels currently purchase. The volumes that they purchase, we know this already. We just need to get the data from the major purchasers, and we already know the demand that we have. We have supermarkets in Grenada that don't carry enough and say that they cannot get local produce in Grenada. We heard the gentleman that was here prior to me speak of a logistics nightmare. I was listening to the problems that he described, not necessarily only the opportunities, because to solve problems in business creates opportunity. Right? To make more money, you don't always have to have more sales. You could lower your costs and you make more money. So you have to look at different areas. For a while I've been speaking about an app. An app, because you see, we traditionally have what you call subsistence agriculture. Our society, that's what our society is based on. That's what we grew up in, that's what we know. We produce for ourselves and for our community. Ooh, 2 minutes already, wow. Okay, so let me go into, in other words, we need to connect the farmers to an entity, right? And that entity, I guess you could say, used to be marketing board or would be the new marketing board. Funding. Funding needs to be a little bit different. Instead of grant funding and instead of funding with traditional loans, as one commenter mentioned, funding needs to be a little different. If banks are very liquid, they need to take 1%, because currently their loan portfolio for agriculture is under 5%. So they need to take at least 1% and say, okay, we're going to give this 1 or 2% to high risk. We're going to lend for the sake of national development of this, a very important sector. We're going to lend at cost. What is the cost and the risk to the bank? To the financial institutions that are fattened by us. So we need to look at that. And speaking in terms of sovereign funds, we have, for example, Marketing Board. Do you know that Marketing Board in its current position, in its winded down state, is profitable? Why is it profitable? Because they have a monopoly on certain products, such as sugar, which we all consume, most of us consume. So that is your sovereign fund, because that is a monopoly. And so you don't need to go to government for everything when you have an entity that already has a monopoly that could be a sovereign fund for that same reimagined agricultural business.